Hello, welcome to Flory Models. I'm Flory. Okay, this week, I know it's a busy week and everything else, but quite some important news this week. First of all, welcome to all the new members. Obviously, we're on the back end of the name change now, and some of you are still finding it difficult. Don't worry, just shoot me an email or a PM, whichever way you do it. Contact me through the site, and I'll get you in the right direction. As I say, a lot of you haven't seen the new show, and then you did, and then you realise that what we're all up to. But it's great to see everyone has loved the actual changeover. It's so much easier to find things around and everything else like that. That's the news for that. The other news is that we are now finally in a position to stick all the videos into iPad and iPhone format and basically mobile technology and everything else. Now the thing to that is, as most of you know, we've got hundreds of videos. Okay, most of them are around about 500 megabytes to 1 gig in size. And as you say, all total, I think it's 200 odd videos that need to be converted now over to the new format. Now it's one of those things going to take a bit of time because things have to be juggled around. It's not just a case of pressing a button and uploading a new version and away we go. All the videos have got to be uploaded back to the server again, so they get reformatted in multi-format. So when you click play, it plays it in the best possible resolution for your device, and that's how it's going to work now. We're still finalising a few little things with the player to make it so you could up it a little bit more if you want to, but for the moment it's simple. You'll click it and it will do it to the best bit rate it can. That's how it's going to work. Now, obviously new videos as they go up will automatically be it. So that's not going to be a problem, but the older ones are going to take a bit of time because, as I said, we are going back now, from my point of view, for almost 5 years worth of videos are going to have to be recoded and put up, and also I've got to find a lot of the originals. So anyway, bear with me. As you see, it's going to happen in reverse order, so the newest videos will be recoded first, and then we'll go back through the timeline until everybody's coded up. But what we've actually got to do, we've got to put them into a brand new format. So the original one's got to be then put into a system, it's got to be number crunch, and then it's got to go back up to the server where it gets crunched again, and then back out. And as I say, it all takes a little bit of a time, so it's not going to happen overnight, and I'm going to be doing this over the next few weeks. As you're sitting there watching the telly, I'll be clicking on the old laptop. So anyway, that's the thing to that. Other things we're working on. Obviously the transor's coming along. I haven't got much to show because it's all in hundreds of bits, but we have it. It's all painted and it's all ready to go. We've got the flooring there, we've got the roof there, and all the areas, because it's one of those things, you build the interior first and it all goes together. Unfortunately, as I explain in the video, you're not going to really see much of it, but we've had a lot of fun doing those different areas, and certainly there's a lot of ejector pin marks on there. And whilst I'm on the thing, I mentioned it in the DVD, but a lot of you probably won't see it, but oh, these instructions drive me mad. Why is it Revell doesn't just do standard colour callouts for it instead of calling it J? And J is a mixture of a Revell paint, which is, I don't know, which is a mixture of 33% with 34 or something else and 35% or something. I like, come on, can't we just... we've all got paints these days. Can't you just say it's whatever paint and we can then match it, use our list? Because that drives me absolutely to distraction. It's a lot easier. I'm looking at reference photos that I've got the transfer and saying that colour for that colour for that. I'm not even taking any notice of the instructions because they drive me mad. Anyway, that's that. So part 1 of that is up there now and is in new iPad friendly, so now you can watch me on iPad, and I must admit it looks great on iPad because it's in HD on the iPad, but as I said, on the main site it's not quite HD yet. When it gets coded again in shortly, it will be in HD on the site as well as iPads. It's just the way it's all working. I don't really understand it. The technical guys are doing all of this, and I'm just sort of passing on the message and be uploading them all. So that is up there at the moment. The other thing I've been working on, hence we've got quite a clean desk here, as I've been filming all week a brand new basic airbrushing DVD. This is also going to be available on the site. It's just on the site when I say it, and coming up next on the DVD is such and such. Obviously you'll have to click on it because it'll be a different film. Okay, but we've really gone through everything. So I've spoken about compressors, airbrushes, how they work, and gone through all the little common things like, why is it you get bubbles back, how to fix that, and we've gone through different scenarios of painting and all the rest of it. Obviously this is all in HD, and I work on an iPad now and all the rest of it. So if you want to see that will be available to buy next week. It'll be out next week. It's already going to be on its way to Sprue Brothers and things like that, so it will be available for them if you want to wait and get it from the US. But certainly it'll be out for us. It'll be next Friday I'll have it out for. As I say, it's a new 1 hour all in HD, which showing how to strip, clean, setting up basics, little things you can do to play with your airbrush to get used to it and everything else like that. Then we move on to one of my older videos, which is quite a good good one because it shows about masking, laying down paint and all the rest of the basics. And then you've got the extended versions of the Sufa, the F16i, the big 1/32 one I did. All the paintwork from that is now available, and it's all the extended, because obviously in the DVD we had to chop it all in to fit it in. This is all the spraying job as a whole is on there. All the ones for the MiG, which we've also got the DVD there, for the MiG-29 is on there as well. We've also got the one which is all HD, these for the B-24 Liberator. We've got down there as well. So you've got those various different things all going on in there to sort of, you know, bring you up to speed and everything else like it. The other thing as well we've got out this week, which is available as of today, which is the brand new, get the light away from it, but this is the MiG-29 video, again in HD. So on this one it's 10 parts, and as I say, you've probably seen various clips of it off now and everything else like that. And also we'll have a part of this which will be free on the website as well for non-members to have a look at. Also you can see full details of the build as well. Just click on the link below this one, it will take you to that as well. So that one is available $5.99 for members or $9.99 for non-members. It's actually 5 and a bit hours of video, that one on there. All in HD as we say, and it's right the way through the MiG build. So if you're thinking of doing the Academy one, or certainly the Ed Ivory box of it as well, that's the DVD for you at the moment. Because of all these massive things going on, which has been an absolute nightmare this week, because all of a sudden the host company jumped on me and said we're ready to go, I haven't started yet on the F14 Tomcat, but I will on Monday, because we'll have that one on the way and getting to you very, very soon. So the first part of that will be up next week. Because of all of that going on and everything, I haven't had a mass chance to do anything. So here is a little look at the new, say brand new HD basic airbrushing video. Okay, so if we talk about how an airbrush actually works and what they actually do. So if we just move these out of the way, what we've actually got here is, as we were saying, a double action airbrush. By that we actually mean you push down for air, you pull back for your paint flow. So we've got a connection here, quick release one. So obviously you push down, probably hear the air coming up. I just turn the pressure up a bit. Okay, the more you pull back, the more you retract the needle, which obviously increases the amount of paint flow that can go through. So obviously you push down a little bit of air. The more you push down, as you can hear, the more you actually get coming out. Now the thing is that, as said, there's other airbrushes out there which will actually be what we call a single action, which basically means when you push down you get a mixture of paint and air together, okay? Or it maybe you pull back and you get a mixture of paint and air together, depending on which types you actually get. There's nothing wrong with those, but you do have a slight problem with control and what I call drying off, where if the paintwork's looking a little bit wet, I just use the air to literally dry it all off without any problems. So that is the real only difference between it, but they are quite an important one to have. So if you can, always go with the double action. The actual way an airbrush breaks down, I've covered this a lot in other videos, but we'll give you another run through now. What you usually have, you have your colour cup at the top. This is obviously where all your paint goes. Some airbrushes, like these one, are interchangeable, so you can have different size cups on there, right up to big sort of 50mm plastic ones, okay, and you can do it just like that. Other ones, such as the Iwata, it's fixed. It's actually welded or soldered to the main body, so you can't change it. But that's not so much of a problem. I think if you've got a colour cup this size, it's ample, and I tend to work with this one here, which is a 5mm 99% of the time anyway. So basically, airbrushes themselves, you unscrew the back. Okay, you can see the little collet back here and the needle. The collet actually locks the needle onto here, okay? So when you retract the actual trigger back, it's actually got a mechanism which pushes here, which pushes the needle back, which is on a spring, which then allows more paint flow at the front. To remove the needle, all we do is slacken off the collet at the back and you can retract and pull the needle out the back. Now the needle is very, very delicate. Don't be going around poking things with it because it is lethally sharp as a needle sounds. This one is, okay? You get different size needles, okay? This one here is a 0.2. It's a standard 0.3 in this one over here, okay? But you can get them down to 0.15. Also, you can get 0.4 and 0.6. The bigger the needle, the bigger the spray pattern. Okay, for modelling, for our type of work and everything else like that, I'd recommend getting something around about between the 0.35 and the 0.2. If you get too small, obviously the paint has a hard time getting out, and really the ones which are like 0.1 mil and 0.5 mil, fives, really tiny little needles, they're really designed for inks and not for the type of paintwork we use anyway. But there you go, personal choice. As I said, for this one I tend to use the 0.2. This one over here has got the 0.35, so you have no problem with that at all. Down at the front end, you've actually got the little air cap, which is this little guy just here, and then you've got the needle guard set and end cap. So if we just bring you in a little bit, you can see this. This here is called the end cap. This is where the air comes down the grooves, down the back of this here, okay, and then straight out. It draws the paint along the needle and then obviously atomises it when it gets to the end of the needle. And here you've got the actual cap itself. Okay, this is a brass cap, so the paint comes into the middle and then obviously gets sucked out the end of the needle, a bit at the end here, as the air all comes around it. These parts are quite delicate, okay, so you don't want to be messing around with them too much. So that literally just screws on the front like that. Okay, needle guards, various different types you actually get. For instance, this airbrush over here has the Iwata, has like a round one on the end here. Usually they are removable and changeable, so you have it like here, but they are a good idea to have because the needle is extremely fragile on the end, and it's obviously if you knock it or anything else like that, stab yourself with it and things like that, it can be the end of your needle, which makes it the end of your day for spraying. This one over here, for instance, you can get other ones. This is a nice big wide one on the end here, which is great for sort of doing line drawings as well. You can place this one actually down on a surface and drag it along, little things like that. It's a little bit gimmicky. Again, it's really designed for ink and artwork and things like that. Personally, personal choice, I like this one here. It's got two prongs on the end. It's dead easy to clean because it's a pinch clean. You can literally pinch it, then you'll run down the side of the needle as well and draw all the messy stuff away and everything else like that. When inserting the needle back in, so we'll cover cleaning and setting up and things like that in a later video, but for the moment we just pop it in and literally just give it a small tap on the end. Don't push it through because obviously the little brass bit on the end, you'll splay it open. That'll be the end of your spraying as well, and it goes on just like that. And then obviously we've got our end cap, just goes in. Air connector, this has got a quick release, or you can screw one onto the end of here. It's personal choice. You can either have it go on and it screws on the end, or you can get these little guys which are dead handy. It's quick release. Okay, and then you just plug in your air and then you're off again, ready to spray. Very, very simple, very, very quick. Okay, the other things you're going to need is obviously you're going to need some paint and things like that. Now, modern day acrylics is what I've got a range of here, are absolutely fantastic. Don't be, you know, it's not like emulsion, what it was sort of 20, 30 years ago. These are very, very now high-tech paints. They're almost synthetic paints, okay? They react just like enamels. They work just like enamels, everything else. Two reasons I like using acrylics: drying time, half the time what it is for enamels, if not quicker. You'll see in my videos I handle as I spray and things like that, so you don't have to worry about it quite as much as you do with obviously your enamel paints. The other thing as well, health from the point of view, they don't smell as bad. You don't have any mass heavy duty solvents in the house and thinners to thin these guys down. They're quite happy to, you know, be used and cleaned out with water, things like that. A thinner. Now, as I always say, a lot of people ask about different thinners. If you can, use the manufacturer's thinner to their actual paint. So for instance, this one, we've got the Tamiya. We have Tamiya paints. Obviously we've got Model Air, which is the Vallejo stuff. They have their particular one. And Guns, this is their acrylic ones, they have theirs as well. If you can, use their own, it really will help out. If you can't, to be honest, from my personal point of view again, X20A, which is a Tamiya one, works fine with all of these, but I know some guys, they say it doesn't, so really it's personal choice. But if you can, get hold of some X20A, it's great stuff. You can use it for cleaning out your airbrush and thinning and things like that. An airbrush cleaner. Airbrush cleaners, again, modern airbrush cleaners have lubricants in them which makes everything smooth and everything else with your airbrush when you're cleaning it out, and stops it jamming up for once you've had it. We're going to talk about all of those a little bit later on, but they're great things to have. So a good quality airbrush cleaner certainly won't go amiss. A brush, admittedly, this is where you're thinking, what do you need a brush for? Mixing paint. You'll get a far better mix than you will if you're using a paint stirrer or something else like that, or sort of, you know, toothpick, things like that. A brush smooths it round, is a lot easier, and also cleaning out. But what you got to make sure is a good quality brush, because you don't want hairs to come off the end of your bristles and things like that. Otherwise, what's going to happen is your hairs are going to go down to the needle area. The needle's not going to be able to close totally. You're going to get spitting, spraying, and worst case scenario, you can get a jam and things like that. So a good brush that you're happy with is not going to lose bristles off the end. So that's really the basics of what we're going to use, how we're going to use it, and obviously what with, and things like that. So now what we can do is have a basics of loading up an airbrush and see how it works. Okay, so you've got your airbrush, you've installed your airline onto the bottom, you've got it plugged into your compressor down below, okay? First time you're ever going to use it, obviously when you get it out of the box, it has been tested in the factory, so you know it is going to work and everything else like that. It's just you might have to play with a few of the little settings. So the first thing you can do with it is really you want to have a go. Feel the air pressure coming out, see how it's coming down. This is obviously, I've got it maxed out so you can hear it and see it, but just get used to how it actually is. There's no difference between what we call the hairy brush, as in, you know, a conventional brush, and an airbrush. They are both tools, okay? Don't be worried about it. Yes, it's quite an expensive kit, but at the end of the day, it's a tool that you would use, no different from modeling from a pair of scissors to a brush to a craft knife to a file. It does exactly the same thing. It's just a little bit more expensive to replace in case you break it. You're not going to break it. These guys are designed to be used. They're designed to, you know, to take a certain amount of punishment. They're designed to jam up and everything else. So don't worry, you're not going to break it. To be honest, this one here is now 6 years old, almost 7 years old now, okay? Admittedly, it's had new parts inside, but that's only as far as goes with needles, new washers inside, things like that. Everything else is totally original, and this little guy gets used probably about 20 hours a week. I'm on the end of this one, and it is still fine to this day, okay? So don't worry about it too much. The other thing is relax, okay? When you're a little bit nervous and you're worried about airbrushing and things like that, you do little tiny movements, that's when you're going to have problems. Just relax with it. You know, when you're using it, spray it around and just have fun with it. As soon as you can relax, have a little bit of fun, you will improve your airbrushing skills tenfold. It really will make a big, big difference. So the other thing you're going to need, okay, is this stuff. Good quality kitchen roll. Don't use the cheap stuff because otherwise it tends to fall apart as soon as you do it. But you're going to need a good few rolls of this because it comes in from everything from cleaning out, masking up your bench so you don't get it everywhere and everything else. So make sure you've got a good quantity of this stuff lying around. So to start with, what we're going to do is just show how easy it is to get going with an airbrush and everything else like that. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of airbrush cleaner. We're going to pop about 1 ml into the colour cup, okay, at the top. And all we're going to do is poke it down here and very, very slowly pull back. Sorry, it hasn't done that. We'll cover that in a later show. So you can hear that is the compressor firing up and coming through. So what we're going to do now is literally just pull the trigger back. I'm putting just the airbrush clean down. Now I know you can't really see this, okay, but you're just getting used to when the paint comes out and everything else. So push all the way down for air. So you just got air, then slowly pull back and you will see it coming out the end. Now you can do this with just normal water through your airbrush. You're not going to hurt it or anything else, okay, and you can just put it through and get used to how it comes out, okay? So when you're going on, do it down here, you can probably see it a bit better. You can put it down and just get used to how it's coming out, okay? And then obviously just give it a wipe. But if you do it with some water, some plain water, you can put it through. Then once you've done it with plain water, a little bit of airbrush cleaner just through it, as I said, just keeps everything moving along and quite nice and things like that. Once you're happy with, you've understood that when it's going to come through, how much trigger you've got to pull back and things like that, then you're used to moving on to putting some paint through your airbrush and things like that. Don't carry on with the water bit too much because water's very thin. It's a bit of a false economy because it's going to come through a lot easier than paint will. Paint being thicker takes a little bit more effort and things like that. So what I would do is literally grab yourself some of the kitchen roll we spoke about, pop that down. We'll just pop down 2 bits in case it soaks through. Okay, just down here like this. If you can do, grab yourself one of these. Now this is a cleaning station. These are all optional extras and there's loads of them we can go through, and I'll talk about them as we go through. Okay, what this actually does is you can pop your airbrush in it to hold it. Okay, the other thing as well, you can squirt all unused paint and cleaner and thinners into this guy here. I put some tissue in the bottom so it soaks it up. What that will actually do is it's got a little vent at the top, but it's mesh, so all the nasties get caught in here instead of just spraying it down and it going airborne in your model room and things like that. So we have one of those there. What we're going to do, we're just going to grab some flat black. This is XF1 Tamiya flat black. Give it a good old shake. Don't worry about stirring it or anything else. Make sure it's had a good old shake. If it's a new bottle of paint, the chances are it'll be thick like tar at the bottom and then quite thin at the top. So you could use a paint mixer, a paintbrush, give it a good old mix down in there to get it going. Once you've got it going, you can then either pour it neat into the colour cup, okay, and then with your thinners, or you can go along, I've got some mixed up already in here, some thin stuff. You can literally just come along, okay, pour your thinners in here, so say about, 1 mil of thinners goes in there like that, okay, and then you can grab another pipette when you're starting out, okay, suck up some paint in here, and then you can put it down in, and then what you can do is literally suck it all up into here, push it back down, and that will mix it. Or the other way is, get rid of that, just grab your brush and give it a good old mix just down in a pot like this. As I say, you could do it in the chamber, and you'll see my videos, you'll see me do it in the chamber, but if you are first time out, then it's probably worth doing it this way. So when you've mixed up your paint, as I said, 50-50 mix, so we've got 50% paint to 50% thinners. Both of them are Tamiya paints. What you can do then is literally decant it into your colour cup. We'll just put in about 1 mil just down in there. Again, if you get dribbles on the side like we've got here, give those a wipe up now, because it will just keep things neater, tidier and everything else. So what you want to do, come across to your paper, okay, push all the way down for air, and then slowly pull back until you've got paint coming through, and then move it around. Okay, and getting closer, and you'll notice the closer you get, the sharper the line is. Okay, the more further you are away, obviously the bigger it is. So again, we'll move in nice and tight, just like that. So that, because that is, the spray pan acts like a cone on an airbrush, it's obviously blowing it out. It might sound simple, but later on when we do more complex things, you'll understand this is quite important, the way it actually works. So actually what you want to do now is just get used to paint coming through. So literally just do some swirls. I do a few little things with the guys when I'm teaching, and we call this noughts and crosses. So all we do, we come along and just do some crosses, okay, and just get used to pulling and stopping as you go through. Then we'll do some noughts, okay, and then we'll do some crosses, and just get used to how the paint comes through. Now the great thing about doing it on paper towel is it sucks it down, it keeps it there, you don't have to worry at all, okay? So when you've done those, literally as you're walking through and you're happy, then we're going to put some circles around, and this is a good technique because it will teach you where you are into relation. So you can see, you want them to go sort of the outside, it's just so you know where the paint's coming out. We can put some dots, some eyes in, just like this. And again, we can do some squares on the bottom one. So you're just trying to get it to paint to the end of the boxes, just like that. So you can sort of go through and just playing with, and then obviously you can have a go at colouring in. Okay, all from sort of mid-distance. Just like so, okay? And it's a great thing, just practice along with it, have fun, relax, don't worry about it. Once you're happy of how it's all coming through and everything else like that, you can move it along a little bit. So we just move this guy just down to here. Just move that out of the way. What you can do, ideally, is get yourself an old model, something else like that. This is a pure sheet of acrylic styrene, all right? If you don't have any of that lying around, the other thing you can do is CDs. It sounds silly, but it's a nice shiny finish to it, which makes it quite hard to spray on, but it will teach you about mixture of air and paint and things like that. So the things you have to remember when you're spraying, okay, it's a balancing act. The thicker your paint, the more air pressure you need to go through to atomize it. All right, the thinner the paint, the less air pressure you're going to need to atomize it. All right, the less air you need, the closer you can get, the sharper it'll be. The more air you need, the more chance you get of spidering, where it all starts to blow away because you've got too much air pressure going through. So obviously, if you're working through, like we are here, around about 40 psi pressure, we can come away and we can spray down from a mid-distance with about half the trigger pull going in here, okay, and we can work it back up, and we just can build up layers of paint just like this, okay, no problem at all with it. But if we wanted to get in nice and close, as you can probably see, straight away you get this type of spidering up here. So the air pressure is far too high for it, so what we need to do is turn the air pressure down a little bit. So what we're going to do is turn this down to around about 20 psi, and we should now be able to get, you probably hear the difference, you can get in a lot closer, and because the air pressure is lower, we can get in and do nice little tight lines, just like that. Does it? There we go. Just in there, just like that, nice and tight, because the air pressure is lower. But the trouble is, the paint then might get a little bit speckly. It might be a bit bitty when you look at it. If you look down, you can see speckles, things like that. That's because the paintwork is having a hard time being atomized, so the blobs, if you like, as they come out, are a lot thicker. And it's this balancing act you have between the amount of thinners that's in there to the amount of paint to the amount of air. So it's a bit like sitting on a hill in a manual car, you know, obviously the throttle versus the handbrake versus the clutch. It's that balancing act between all three of them, and it's something that comes with practice. As with riding a horse and, you know, driving a car, it's that balancing act of the two. As soon as you start to get the idea of the balancing act, it becomes sort of second nature to you, so you can do different type of paint variables and things like that. But if we add a little bit more thinners to our paint, so we just put in a few drops down here. Okay, and we come out. Don't blow this straight onto your work, because you've thinned it in the colour cup. You've still got a little bit of paint now at the end, which is obviously going to be thicker, so don't think just get in there. Come across to a side and just blow that through. And when it goes thin, trust me, you'll know it, because it just, the sound changes and it's a lot easier and just flows out very fast. So what we can do now is come across here, and as you look down, hoping you can see, because it's thinner now, if we get this, camera angles with this, you can probably see here, this line is very big and it's very smudged, and we've got that spidering effect is starting to work on it. That is because the air pressure is now very high for the thinners. Because the paint's a lot thinner, it's easily coming out, so we're getting the spidering. So what you need to do, it's more thin, we need to turn the air pressure down. So now we're going to take it down to about 10 psi. Okay, come across, sorry, a bit more back. Come across, and we can just do that again. So say that gives you an idea what's on the DVD and how it is and how it looks and everything else like that. So if you are interested, say it's not available yet, and it won't be on the site until next week as well. And then I'll put up, obviously you'll see it in the store as well as I'll mention it on here and everything else. Because of everything going on, I haven't had a chance to sit down and go through the forum, as I did promise to bring you a lot of the forum work this week. But unfortunately I haven't got time to do that because I've literally just run out of everything like that. But that will be up next week. We're going to talk about the forum, what's going on with the group builds, the SIGs and everything else. So until next week, the sun is shining here in the UK, so we might get out over the weekend. Everyone, happy modelling and take care.